Impala Platinum has suspended operations at its Bafokeng-Rasimone mine in Rustenburg in the northwest. This is due to what the company says is an illegal underground sit-in by more than 2,000 workers. It follows a number of similar protests at other mines in recent months. Implat says the reason for the sit-in is yet to be determined. It revealed that relevant authorities are on the scene to ensure that people aren't being kept hostage. The mining company also warns that these types of incidents could pose a job risk in the long term. For more on this trend of staging underground sit-ins as a form of protest, we're joined by Geoffrey, Moatshe, the Rustenburg Regional Secretary of National Union of Mine Workers. Geoffrey, appreciate your time this evening. Just give us your thoughts around this type of staging. It's, I think, the fourth or fifth in the last 6 to 8 weeks that we've witnessed.
Good evening, and thank you for having us as the National Union of Mine Workers. In your introduction to the topic, you correctly pointed out that it is now becoming a trend in respect of these kind of sittings underground. And we honestly do not know what informs that. But I can confirm that over 2,000 workers and members of the National Union of Mine Workers, for that matter, are staging now a sit-in. We had waited until up until 5:30 to confirm whether this is a sit-in or what is it, because media hype has been through on the matter since in the morning. But we said we could not conclude that it's a sit-in, more so when the shift had not been cleared. Now, as I speak to you, I'm still at the mine. We've sent a delegation of the NUM leadership to both the shafts that are affected to go and get the gist of the matter, because if one becomes honest with you, we had thought that all issues that workers or members of the National Union of Mine Workers have raised with the leadership, those issues have been addressed. Now, hence one would make reference to the kind of sit-ins that, one, these cannot be innocent, and therefore as the leadership we need to go down and check as to what could be the bone of contention that workers could not be able to raise with leadership on the surface, but choose to go the route of staging a sit-in underground, which unfortunately is posing issues of health and safety to workers. You will understand that some might be on chronic medication, and if they are held against their will, or if they are staging a sit-in underground, those issues of health and safety now comes into play. And now the focus is, irrespective of how legitimate issues are, we have communication channels, and we cannot risk health and safety of fellow workers as a result of issues that we have as probably people who are disgruntled. Up to this end, I can tell you that we honestly do not know as to what are the demands. Hence, we've deployed the leadership to go underground at the two shafts and to check what is really the bone of contention.
Geoffrey, are you concerned that the individuals or the people that you represent are going on industrial action without alerting you, and that your intelligence would have missed this?
Look, you will recall that just 2 weeks ago we had a similar situation at Bakubu and also at your gold one. But much as I'm making reference to the two incidents, we do not underestimate issues that workers are raising. But I'm saying we have proper communication channels where these issues can be raised. I can tell you that a week ago we had a detection that something of this nature might happen. We staged a routine of mass meetings to address workers, to say issues that we have with either the employer or with your union, can you raise those issues? But we cannot go to the risk of risking employment of workers, given the kind of economic condition that we are facing, particularly in the Platinum Belt, where a number of Section 189's intention to retrench have been issued to us by various employers.
Now, one would imagine that if if you're going to strike or engage in any industrial action, you'd look at what is most effective. Does it suggest that these underground sit-ins, because of their frequency, that they're a lot more effective than the proper channels that workers would be expected to follow?
I think we should not fall into a trap of defocusing. I told you from the beginning that the NUM is not sanctioning the strike, and we could not risk taking workers to a strike, like I said, given the current economic conditions. Now, hence we are saying, since the morning we are here at the mine, we want to get to the bottom of the matter as to what is it that workers are crying out. Taking workers to a strike is not an option at this stage, which I think would be risking the prospect of their employment in future. Because honestly,
is that not where maybe? Sorry, Jeff, is that not where the challenge is? Because if you're suggesting that you, as the NUM, are not prepared to take the workers on the strike, and the workers themselves have taken the matter literally into their own hands and staged a sit-in, is this not them? I suppose the two processes not being congruent. They feel differently to what you feel.
It's unfortunate that you see it that way.
I don't. It's a question. I'm posing a question. Okay. I'm not saying that's my point of view, but I'm saying that if you have said to the workers, it is not proper for us to engage in industrial action, but the workers have gone and engaged in industrial action, is it not possible that they do not see it the way you see it, is the question.
In my earlier input, I indicated that it's either workers might be held against their own will, which is something that we still must determine. Because I can tell you, in the morning before they proceeded that underground, a few of them wanted to stop workers going underground. But later they were defeated in terms of numbers. In fact, this could have started yesterday, and the workers said no. Now, today, before we could confirm that it was a sit-in, we were reliably informed that workers did not proceed to their workstations. In fact, they proceeded underground and they stayed at the workstation. That is when we played a wait-and-see game to see whether we can confirm that that is a sit-in, and then we should start acting from within those time frames, because we could not say it's a sit-in before 5:30, because by then one could argue that how do you say I'm in a sit-in when I'm still at work, because you expect me to honor my contract, which might be from 6 o'clock to 5:30. So after 5:30, that is when we said, now this must be viewed as a sit-in and we must come up with contingency measures.
So let's talk about those individuals, if they are indeed individuals, that are forcing or holding some of these workers against their will. What happens to those individuals?
Well, those individuals remain members of the National Union of Mine Workers. We must first identify them and sit with them so that they raise their issues with the leadership. And then the leadership must take their issues and say, these are issues that we have addressed, these are issues that we think must still be taken to management, and talk about those issues. But I don't think staging a sit-in underground is an option. We don't promote it, but we will always, as a mandate-driven organization, take issues of workers and present them to management. Because in our own view and objective, no issue of worker is a small issue. So we're going to take those issues from workers and see as to how do we then present them to management. I said earlier to you that we've deployed a team of some of our shop steward and leaders to underground now as we speak, so that they get those issues so that we can present to management.
Now, Geoffrey, something else that you mentioned is that you've obviously monitored what's transpired with a number of other mines where mine workers stage these sit-ins. What has been the source of that trend? What are some of the common threads that you've been able to pick up?
Look, like I said earlier, it's a worrying trend. It's a worrying trend, and one needs to dig deeper and check as to what informs this trend and what informs this modus operandi. We know that in other areas it's about union rivalry and a contestation for the area in terms of control. Now, here at Impala Bafokeng, we are the sole trade union. We must determine as to how do we link the other sit-ins that happened previously with this one. I made mention of Bakubung, I made mention of Gold One earlier, and I said, matching the two or matching the three wouldn't be an ideal solution. We must dig deeper and say, what informs these trends and how do we link or relate them to each other? Because I said the one of Bakubung was a battle against management. This one is members of a union that is the sole trade union at a particular mine, and they choose to go underground to draw attention to the powers that be. Then as a trade union that is the sole representative at this mining house, we are saying, let workers bring those issues to us, to our attention as the leadership, so that we can address them as their sole representative at this mining operation.
Geoffrey, earlier you also talked about possible retrenchments, and that this is something that potentially the mine workers were not happy with. How are you addressing this issue? What are the conversations that you're having with management?
It's public knowledge that mines are on a shootout in terms of retrenchments. Now, as a responsible trade union, seeing these trends of retrenchments, we cannot fall into a trap of further endangering the prosperity of employment of our members and workers in general. And therefore, we must continue fight mine owners with the possibility of saving workers, because we know that it's not like mine owners are not making profit. It's just that their projected profits could not be reached. And now they always come with the excuse of a basket price. But you'll check as to why would then, when these issues of not making profit, what is this way? Why does it affect your low income earners and does not affect people who are at the senior positions? That's a worrying factor. But as a union that bolds itself with the protection of security of mine workers, we will continue fighting employers in this regard. And in some instances, we have put in recall clause so that as the economy makes a turn, we know that we've secured workers to be recalled wherever they are. Because if you retrench Geoffrey Moatshe, who's 35 years old, and you say to him, go and spend the rest of your life at home, how is he going to sustain the family going forward? So those are issues that we are raising with employers to say, as and when you consider sending workers home, consider that the low-income workers, given the high unemployment rate of youth in the country and in general, let's see and as stakeholders come up with a workable solution of securing jobs in future.
Now, Geoffrey, let's talk about some of the frustrations that you might be having around this type of industrial action. Because obviously if you represent these workers and you are their face or their conduit to management, and they go and engage in industrial action without your approval, it must be of grave concern to you. So how are you looking at dealing with this issue? Because as you've suggested, and it's pretty clear, it's becoming a trend that is not welcome.
Look, sometimes it might be opportunistic tendencies by some individuals who would think leading workers to a particular direction would garner them support probably, and they become popular, and they become leaders and acquire position of leadership in either the trade union. Now, it's something that as a trade union we need to make self-introspection. and go deeper and say, why would a member of a trade union that has delivered so much on the doorstep of workers just decide that we're going to sit down on the ground and give this protest? And I think me and you would agree that none of the ring leaders, if I may coin it that way, would subject their next of kin to the same kind of conditions. I don't think they would agree to that thing to be done to their next of kin. That should be the starting point, and say what are issues internally. But to this end, we don't know as to what are issues within workers here at Impala Bafokeng, because I put a disclaimer in the beginning that we are the sole trade union here, and to this end, we think all issues that workers have raised, we've dealt with them in the best possible way we can do. Let me further indicate to you that we've got over 12 subcontractors who are giving service to the mine, which is Royal Bafokeng Platinum. Just before the end of last year, we made sure that we harmonized their salaries, because in some mining houses you'll find that employees of the company are paid way higher than what contractors are earning, even though they enter into the same turnstile going to the mine using the same tools. But towards the end of the year last year, as the NUM, we made sure that we harmonized their salaries. Contractor workers are earning the same salary as permanent employees. Now, one would wonder as to what would be an achievement more than that for a trade union.
Geoffrey, that's where we're going to leave it. Appreciate your time this evening. That was National Union of Mine Workers, Rustenburg Regional Secretary Geoffrey Moatshe.